There we go. Official.
All right. My name is Jerry Sampson, and I am with Ghouls Magazine. I'm here today with Nathan Crooker, who is the next on my series of horror filmmakers to watch. The series focuses a lot on short content, so short form, short films. And I met Nathan at FilmQuest in 2021 after seeing his short film, #NoFilter. Hi, Nathan. How are you?
I am doing very well, Jerry. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, on the show. Yeah, Ghouls is happy to have you. #NoFilter was a huge standout short for me. Everything about it grabs your attention right at the top. Your color design, your score, your actor, the kind of tone of the film was so different than everything else that was playing for me. And so that was a part of the reason why I was really drawn to kind of find you and talk to you about it. Where did this idea kind of originate for #NoFilter?
Yeah, so over the pandemic, I saw a lot of my friends that are, in their 40s, sort of playing around with these filters on Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat or whatever, just as kind of like a joke because we're all so bored. And I think, as things started to progress and everything started to lift and we kind of got semi back to normal, that didn't change. I mean, they were using it with pictures with their kids and like going out at the bars with their friends and things. And it became something where people started to comment on it and they would get really fired up and angry about it. And I know that it kind of ruined it put a few people into some serious depression. And then I started to read more about it. And as I went down this rabbit hole and found out about Snapchat dysmorphia and how, plastic surgeons now are getting screen grabs of these filters. Like if you were to, put the filter on, they'd screen grab it and they're like, I want to look like this, instead of like bringing in like Kim Kardashian's face and say, I want her nose or something. They're saying this filter that some random person built in the middle of my Milwaukee is like, I want this face. So I just felt like, there's something really scary about that. And also something kind of sad as well. And I just sort of wanted to bring awareness to that because I just, I say this and I don't say it lightly. I think everybody's really beautiful, like on the inside and out. Like there's totally stuff I don't like about myself, my physical appearance. I used to, but like I accept it because it makes me unique, and I'm never going to be Brad Pitt because there's only one Brad Pitt. So,
right.
I feel like making people a little bit more aware, and hopefully that they realize that, they don't need to go through those sort of lengths. Is kind of one of the reasons why I made the movie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It seems like, people our age, maybe not Gen, what is it, Y? Right. Yeah. So we haven't been raised with these filters, right? So this is kind of like you're talking about your friends using these things. It feels like a really new kind of idea for us that's a little playful, but I feel like these kids that are kind of, this is their only reality on social media, might find it less of like a joke and more of like a really serious thing. And like you say, they're bringing it into that's a crazy idea for me, to think that people are bringing in these pictures that they don't even exist in life and being like, this is. So have you gotten much of a response from younger people at these festivals that you've been going to? Anybody kind of being like, wow, that feels a little too close to home?
Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up because I haven't actually. I think, when we were at Santa Barbara, which isn't a horror fest, but we got in and, really happy that they had us. When I did the Q&A, I think there was an older crowd. I'm talking about like 60s, 70s in that crowd. Oh, okay. And I think they probably watched that movie and they were a little horrified by it, something they didn't expect because we were in sort of a social media block and ours was a horror block. Ours was a horror film. But when I had said sort of in a way, just what I said to you, there were like gasps in the crowd. And I find that with, when we're doing that, like other people will come up to me and say that, because I think they're sort of had the same experience I did. Whereas the younger generation, I think, like you were saying before, and I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't know, but I haven't really had them come up and say much to me, Yeah, I don't know. I can't answer that. Wish I could.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe these kids need to start going to
Maybe it's working.
film festivals. Yeah, maybe it's working.
I don't know. I mean, it's funny because they haven't, it's one of those things where I know they're there in the crowd, watching it. But yeah, I don't know. There's also like, there's a part of it that's, it's just so like friends of mine that are on like these dating apps and stuff, like even the guys, I mean, everybody, the filters are all, the faces, everything's doctored. Some of them more extreme than others, but I don't think half those images are like true to self. So.
Right. Well, we have the ability now to kind of curate like our surroundings and the lighting and all this at the swipe of a button. I think that your film does that really well because it does kind of touch on, without like, I don't want to give everything away because I really want people to be able to find it when it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
But it really does touch on that deep-seated insecurity that we have about people meeting us in real life and not being able to like find our angles and the harsh light of day, and which is a part of what I just love about like your color design in the film and everything about it. It's both, once everything starts amping up, it's very eerie, but it's also very flattering. And you've got these neons, it's very popular. I've seen it in some horror films recently, and some like Nicholas Winding Refn films, but it's a great use of that to kind of set the stage for this girl who your actress's name is Kelly Lamore Wilson, who is really amazing, but set the stage for her to kind of be really isolated.
Yeah.
And at the same time, she's letting people only see the parts of her that she wants, which is obviously what the story kind of feeds off of. So tell me a little bit about Kelly and how you found her, and because the whole thing really rests on her shoulders.
Sure.
And her face, like she has a great face.
Yeah.
Which is very funny because she in the movie is very down on her face. But tell me a little bit about how you met her and got involved.
So I'll answer the first part. So I met Misha Osharovich from Freaky. And I met them during COVID and became friendly. I mean, we kind of spoke. We were talking about different projects with each other. And then when I wrote this, I wrote the part Micah for them. And I was like, I wonder if they'll do it. And Mish was like, I really dig it. Yeah. And he said, well, who's going to play, who's going to play Beth? And I said, well, I'm talking to a couple of women that I like, but they're not really perfect. And he goes, well, what about Kelly? And I said, all right. Kelly, he's the Kelly from Freaky. Like I'm really good friends with her. I said, okay, great. Well, let me, and anyway, Kelly ended up reading and did it in with a filter on for the audition. And she just had such fun with it. And she just was so perfect because she's super real. She's got so much energy and so much positivity. And the story really resonated with her. Mm-hmm. So I think that came through in her audition. And then the more we spoke about it and started to like talk about the character, she really understood what I was trying to do. And, what I think is important about the movie is, Kelly's a very pretty girl. And, upon talking to her more, she doesn't wear makeup ever. I mean, a little bit, she told me when she might go to an event maybe, but she's like, I just don't wear makeup, and I don't like particularly care about dressing up and, unless it's for something. She's just, she's very like confident in herself. So, I felt like, there are those people, and then, she sort of gets wrapped up in this filter. So it's not really pointing fingers. It's like this kind of person, or somebody we think is like, oh, well, they're not that attractive. That's why they're doing it, know? It's not about that. And I think, I wanted to find that middle ground, right? Where, it's, you can see like, oh, wow, I mean, wow, she doesn't need to do that. But then she becomes infatuated with this thing, so she just had that perfect face and obviously that perfect energy and just like, obviously in her audition tape, which is incredible. But, it took us 2 months almost to make the filter for her.
Oh wow. Oh yeah, because you guys made your own
Yeah,
filters.
we
That's amazing.
specifically made it, and I would send it. So they would make that, I'd give them images and say, I want her forehead to be smaller and her eyes to be bigger, and I'd do all this
Mm.
stuff. And then they'd upload it to Snap, and then I'd send it to Kelly, and she'd be like out with her girlfriends or her parents. She'd do it real quick. And she's like, he emailed me back. She goes, "This one's terrible." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's pretty bad." Like you made her look worse,
Yeah.
But she was really great. And we made one for Mish as well. So with the two of them going back and forth, we finally got it to a place where even Kelly was like, okay, this is creepy. You know what I mean? Because like she's pretty as it is. And then you do this other thing where it just distorts her so much more. Where you're like, wow, can she get any better looking? But it's like, it gets to this place where like, it really just like glamifies her, right? And even on the day, the cool thing about it was they've been on set when we were shooting, there was a couple of things in the lighting that I didn't like. So I spoke to our guy, and he was on call that day. He made a few revisions and then uploaded it, and I gave, because everything was on my phone, I gave Kelly the thing. She put the filter back on. I was like, oh, that's better, within like 15 minutes,
Wow.
so, like sort of instantaneous, and we were constantly playing with it. But the two of them were really big sports because I was sending them filters all the time to check.
Yeah. Well, because you were having to work through, like, I mean, obviously you're working COVID restrictions, you're having all of this, the issues that come with this past 2-year period of filmmaking hell, or truly experimental joy, depending on who you're talking to. And it sounds like they were really good sports. And looking at this, I mean, I can see how you would be able to maybe shoot these scenes, like maybe the scenes with Misha. I mean, was he ever on set, or was he?
Yeah,
he was. Okay.
They came to set. So essentially, if you watch the movie, when they're speaking on the computer, and the bed that Kelly's on, we just redressed it and put Misha in there and turned the camera on. And they were talking that way.
Okay.
But it really, I mean, they're friends already. So that I remember the computer went down and Kelly was like, oh man, because there's real, I mean, they're actors. They're like amazing actors. So the chemistry, I mean, yeah, Kelly could have done it without them being there, right? But the chemistry they had together, because they had been reading it together and kind of playing with it, and the playful nature of that. And then sort of when Mish gets upset with her and her reaction to that, it's just so much more powerful. So to have them there, and we could have done it without them being there, but to have them there just really, I think, made that scene all that much more powerful.
That's
viewer,
That's nice. It really shows that you have a good handle on your set. I see that when I'm watching this. I mean, I watch a lot of shorts, watch a lot of indie film, and so I see all different variations of budget and of like production levels. And you gave me Playback and Midnight Delivery, two of the other short films to watch, and I love both of them. And your style is there. Like I can see the Nathan Crooker style, and it's very well shot. The scores that you have in everything that you do are really amazing. And so in the hashtag No Filter being the first film of yours that I saw, I got a really good kind of glimpse of you as a director. And I think you've got something very special coming out of these short films, and your focus is on horror. So Ghouls Magazine is a horror-centric, online publication. So tell me a little bit about like your relationship with horror and why this is your kind of genre of choice so far.
I fought against it for a really long time. Like a really long time. And I don't know why, because ever since I was super little, I was super drawn to obviously Halloween and getting dressed up and like making these movies where, I had a PXL 2000 and I'd take like, I'd make dough and paint it and stick it on my little sister and like kill her and like shoot it. She was young. She's like 9. So I probably like messed her all up. But I was always sort of playing around in this world and reading Stephen King in 6th grade and getting caught for reading it at school. And then my mom coming in and being like, who cares? Like, he's not crazy. He's reading at a higher level. And my mom wouldn't let me watch horror movies, but she'd she'd buy me the books, which I feel like is a little bit worse, but she was
Worse,
like,
yeah.
as an education, it's probably better because I'm learning to
Yeah.
read, trying to figure out these words. So there was something there with her. But my mom also is very much into, I grew up around her, and she's, whether people believe in it or not, but like she has a very strong sense of like the other side and ghosts and things like that. And the two of us growing up would really talk about that. And there were a lot of things that happened in the family, with my mom and I, things we saw, things that happened to us. And I think sort of it all just kind of was, it's always like the perfect storm for a kid who really loves horror. I mean, I just loved it. I remember being in Vermont in this tiny ass bookstore, and it was like, the scary stories to tell in the dark. Nobody knew what it was. It was like in Vermont, the one book, and I pulled it out and I was like, I gotta buy this. My mom's like, okay. Just like it was always gravitating towards it. It was always around. And then as I got older and started making like music videos and directing commercials and thinking about what I wanted to write, I was like, man, I got to write something, so dramatic and like powerful, and it needs to mean so much. And, like it's some, movie from that would go to Cannes. And I wrote that stuff, and I was like, it's kind of lame, but I felt like if I made horror movies, people would kind of like make fun of me, and I wouldn't really be able to get anywhere with it. And then finally I said, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to write what I like. And so I did this movie, Peace of Mind, with Mies Peck and Matt Newton. And it was like more of a thriller than a horror. And I played with that, and I really enjoyed it. And I was like, okay, I definitely can do this. Like, it's what I love. And then a good friend of mine, James P. Gannon, who is another incredible filmmaker, had his short film that got in Sundance this year, Deerwood's Death Trap. He does documentary. Okay. It's crazy. Right, okay. The story's amazing. But anyway, he was like, hey man, these dudes in Brooklyn are got this horror film festival. And they're doing, you can only do 3 minutes, you should make one. And I was like, I don't know about that. And then finally I was like, you know what, I'll do it. And that's when I made Playback. And that's when I was like, everything blew up. Like I made that, I gave it to Geek Tyrant. I don't know why. And the next day I was shooting like AC/DC, and all of a sudden I get this phone call. They're like, dude, that thing is like disgusting. It's everywhere. And it like went viral. I was like, wow, it's incredible. And I was kind of following it along and like looking at people being like, that's bullshit. It's not one shot. Other people like, shut up. It is one shot. Like fighting over this movie. I was like, this is so cool. And it's just like, that's when it really crystallized for me. It's like, this is exactly what I want to do. I don't really care. And then the beauty of it all is like now horror sort of in the mainstream, if you will, parts of it where it's treated a little, people see it as a real art form now. Not necessarily all of them, but a lot. And then going back and looking at those movies, like we were speaking about earlier, you really see that. I mean, horror has always been so progressive. I mean, Night of the Living Dead with the first Black lead. I mean, like women, like showing the power of women throughout everything, and like queer characters and all this stuff. And I think people just overlooked it because it's like bloody. It's like these are smarter than you're giving, not all of them, but the majority of them, but they're trying to say something and making it entertaining. It's like, what more do you want? It's like the best.
Exactly.
I think that's a really long answer, but.
No, that's a great answer. I think a lot of people maybe turn their backs on the genre because of the sort of societal overview of what horror is. And they only want to like grasp it when somebody like Jordan Peele does Get Out or something like that. But anybody that knows horror knows, as you said, it's always been a form of commentary on society and a way to really face the fears of being a human being in a way that's cathartic and a lot of times really impactful. And it's also just like sometimes good fun, but there's a space for every kind of angle in, and that's what I appreciate. Playback was really great, and if you have like a link that you'd like to share with people, I'll make sure that it gets out there. I'm not sure where it's at.
You can go to, I think it's at both of those, playbackthefilm.com and midnightdeliverythefilm.com.
Great. Yeah, as long as it's accessible, I'll make sure to put links there. And I really encourage, Midnight Delivery had an amazing entity. I mean, it's just really great. like the effects on that and the actress that was in that also was really amazing.
Yeah, Danielle
And
Goulden is pretty incredible.
yeah, everything about that very creepy and dark, and you managed to create like a whole new creature.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
I
And
think,
I mean,
the beautiful thing about the short films, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think like
no,
if you're not making a feature and you've got time and you can scrape together some money to do shorts, I think the great thing about it is, especially if you love horror, you can sort of play in all the subgenres. So I was always like, I did Playback, which is like pretty much a straightforward like horror movie, right? Where it's like
yeah,
you've got a killer and it's quick and it's gory. So I was like, okay, I want to do that. Then I was like, well, I really love like movies like House, and I love like the campiness of the 80s. So then I was like, well,
yeah.
what can I do? So that's why I made, and I really wanted to play with like tension, and I wanted to play with, subverting expectation and things like that. So that's why I made Midnight Delivery. And then I wanted to do something for a younger generation that sort of was a little bit more, that had more social commentary. And the threads of it were a little bit stronger and more mature. So that's why I made, No Filter. And I was like, kind of just playing with what I really like along the way. So that way when I do, because I produced 2 features, and I'm planning on shooting one this year that I wrote. But I was, trying to figure out like, I wonder where my voice is that's stronger. But I think they all sort of play into the same type of, I really like playing with suspense and the dread and like what's going to come. And I think that's in all of those. You know what I mean?
Yep. The thread is there.
Yeah. So I think that's the most fun about those. But yeah, Midnight Delivery I just think it's like super fun, and Danielle's like incredible, and that monster's ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
And that
so
is actually
good.
the headdress that I got in Africa, and we ended up sculpting it, taking that and then making it out of foam, so because it's made out of wood and it's really, really heavy. So yeah, that's a replica of it in the movie, and Eric Sanko made that. It was like he does. Him and his wife are incredible puppeteers. From I can't remember the name. This is terrible. Anyway, he made it and he did an incredible job, because I actually
it's gorgeous.
We also made this crazy. We made this crazy hand that we never used.
Oh, I like it.
Really, really long.
Yeah, well, you had another kind of hand. So this is like a prototype that. Oh, really? Okay.
That was the human hand, because that one wasn't really working the way I wanted to, because I couldn't really bend it. But we made that ridiculous thing. But then we ended up using our actor. He has really, really long arms. There you go. Yeah.
Well, oh God, I love it. Yeah, definitely. I recommend everyone checking out these 2. And No Filter is still moving around the festival circuit. So you, looking Nightmares, Film Quest, where we met. You recently did Nevermore. You played there, and you've just been like dominating the festival circuit. Horror House, winning all kinds of things, obviously well deserved, I think. These festivals are a good way to get out there a little bit, at least. Do you have a spot for it after? I mean,
I don't know.
Shorts are always hard.
It's tough. I mean, like, Short of the Week's always nice because they kind of promote it really well. Obviously, you want to probably do like Alter. But I know they can be a little picky about what they like and what they don't like. I'm not sure if it's up their alley or not. I haven't sent it to them. But I think like I'll try to probably put it on Alter, or just out on YouTube and see how it does. Like the main impetus to make this thing was really to do sort of a calling card for the feature, right? So the original script was like 25 pages, and I was like, oh man, nobody wants to watch that. You got to make it short. So like I pulled out a lot of the sort of the ancillary stuff that sort of makes it feel that, it does make it feel bigger. But I think that you get the idea of what could happen, and that's what's important. You get the hook. So, I want to use that to get it out to some different companies, because I have the script and everything ready to go. So
you have the feature already.
Yeah, if somebody wants to pull the trigger on that, that's sort of why I made it. So
great. Yeah, no, it's a great calling card.
Yeah,
I mean,
thanks.
It's a great proof of concept, and I can totally see it as a feature that would attract a lot of attention, especially right now. Yeah. And so I guess my last little question, you mentioned it very briefly, but your next project, I guess, is a feature. That's what you're working on right now. And this will be your first feature.
It's tough because it's like, hold on a second. I thought I shut this off. That's like that's so rude. And it was my mom.
Wow.
I think the feature, like I produced 2 features. So I did the one, I don't know if I told you about Isolation, which was the anthology that I did.
I read a little about it.
Yeah, it's on iTunes, and I produced that, and then I was going to do a film right before the pandemic, and that sort of fell through. It was all like ready to go. We were financed, and then everybody kind of pulled out, obviously because of the pandemic, like, people got scared. So that's why I did Isolation. And then the team I had, it was one of those things, no matter what size feature you do, the team is always it's very big. So I couldn't get everybody back because they were on to other projects, and they're all super talented and amazing. And they're working. So it took me a minute to also then find something else that was financially doable. And then something I really thought I could put my stamp on, so I ended up taking a script that I had and really looking at that and rewriting that. It's called Play With Me. It's like, essentially I've been pitching it as The Strangers meets The Conjuring.
Oh.
So it's like Home Invasion meets
are,
Possession.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, well, The Strangers is one of my favorites. And The Conjuring made a shit ton of money. So that's a good combination.
If that's what the added bonus to this whole thing, it's amazing. I'm into it.
Yeah.
It's time to make a feature. I mean, I think, at the end of the day, you can't, as filmmakers, if it's really what you want to do, you've got to make it, even if you fall on your face. You just got to make the feature, and either you fall on your face and then you go make another one. Don't make those mistakes again, but you learned already, or you do something that's great and then hopefully we'll get you something else. So, I'm hoping I can take all the great things that you liked about the movies that I've done, and I can put this into this feature and get a great team behind it. And the cast, I'm kind of excited about that we're talking to. So, that's the plan. So I think within a year, either this will be out at festivals, or, if I'm lucky enough, somebody will buy it.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what you come up with next. And I'm excited for everybody to be able to watch the movies, the shorts that you have produced. And I know that everyone watching this will take a look at what they can and hopefully follow your career, because I think you're incredibly talented. And
it's very kind.
Yeah, I appreciate you talking to me and to all of our Ghouls readers and listeners.
Well,
and everybody, make sure that you follow Nathan Crooker, because he is definitely the next big thing.
Oh, well, that's very kind of you. Well, thanks for having me.
I believe it.
I hope I can make you proud. But I will say I appreciate you having doing this for all the short filmmakers, or the films that you like, because it is hard for us to get the movies out there and for people to know who we are, especially when we put so much time and effort into these projects. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, it can be difficult because people don't get a chance to go to the festival. So you and Ghouls, thanks for doing this. And, I hope that you have other great conversations with other great filmmakers. So.
Of course. Well, it's my pleasure, and I will talk to you soon. And everybody, make sure that you follow. Oh, real quick.
Yeah.
Socials.
So I'm on Twitter as Nathan Crooker. I'm on Instagram as @theCrooker. And if anybody still uses Facebook, then I'm on that as Nathan Crooker as well.
Great. All right. Thanks, Nathan.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.